So, Karin, Gert, Henrik, Allan. Let's give a warm round of applause to these guys who are coming to the stage.
Oh jumal, see pimestab.
Minge ette natuke edasi ma peaks.
Okay.
Selle, mul oli mind näärata siia.
I'll take a seat as well. So my name is Vairo, I'm from Startup Estonia. I'll try to somehow handle this not very light and easy crowd who is at least for 20 seconds quiet. So this is how it's going to run. We are up here from like 10 minutes up to 60 minutes, depending how you behave and how we decide that if you want to listen to us or not. Last year was an exceptional year. Then we had planned for 40 minutes, and then for some reason, God knows why, you wanted to listen to us 60 minutes. So we have planned 60 minutes. It involves also questions from your side. So there's going to be some slides from the original tech pro Allan. Allan was a tech pro even when there were no tech pros out there, just for your knowledge. But each of these people who are on the stage, they will introduce themselves. But first, we do some grading. So I will ask you some questions from the audience. So if you think that something is good, you can raise one hand and do raise it like the American way, high up. If you think that something is really good, you can raise two hands. So there will be more hands up. And the same goes, if you think that something is really bad, you can raise one hand. If you think that something is like really mega bad, raise two hands. So, first question, is Estonian startup sector in a good place? If it's in a good place, raise one hand. Very good place, two hands. Okay, like the first grading done. Who thinks that the Estonian startup sector is in a terrible place? Again, like one hand, if it's like burning in hell, two hands. Okay, at least either you are sober or you are not yet courageous yet. And with that, let us get to the introduction round. So we'll go from my left hand first. So I introduce myself, Vairo from Startup Estonia. So who are you, why are you here, and how do you think, where is the Estonian startup sector?
Hi everyone, my name is Henrik Raymond. I'm one of the founding partners of 2C Ventures. We're an early-stage cleantech-focused VC fund from Estonia, investing across the new Nordics, backing technologies that are both commercially viable but also have a positive impact on the climate. And why I'm here is that I've also been a member of SVCA since 2019. Actually, my history was that I was in the private equity world with Livania Partners, representing them in SVCA, and since this November, I'm also the chairman of SVCA.
All right.
And where is the Estonian startup system or ecosystem? I think we're definitely at a good place. I mean, look at the crowd here. Can't complain. There are drinks and food. In terms of the future outlook, I think there are positive signs and negative signs. Obviously, let's say the boom years of 2021, 2022 are gone. Can they come back? Maybe. But I'm like cautiously optimistic about the future, but I do think that there are some aspects that we need to work on.
All right, let's give a round of applause to Henrik. Gert.
Yes, hello everyone. Gert Klein, representing Invest Estonia here last week. And I think from our perspective, we work with foreign investors. I see huge demand, especially for defense sector and deep tech sector. So I would say we are in a good place. And the more I speak with foreign investors, the more interest they have. So FOMO is still there. No big faux pas from startup sector this year. So I think we are in the right direction.
Okay, there will be follow-up questions, at least from me on this one. But we'll continue with the introductions. So, Karin.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm Karin Kõnapas. I'm the managing director of the Estonian Business Angels Network. And I think from the angels side, we can also see quite a bit of positivity. Angels are doing investments, both directly and into funds. And I think one of the key sources for Estonian angels' optimism this year is that we've managed to have 3 exits from angel syndicates that we've done with different kind of events, with Latitude and Startup Day. And we've been doing those syndicates since 2017. So I think it's really good to see these kind of fruits finally getting ready and bringing also some money back to the market.
we had a prep call and we agreed that exits will be question number 6, but Karin is like really eager. It's like the Santa who is bringing the gifts, like, yes, but I want to open them now. We have exits. So, but we'll indulge her, of course. So, Allan.
Yes, good afternoon, and I'm Alan. I'm what Vaido said, the original tech pro of Estonia, which is probably wrong, but I'm the president of Estonian Founders Society, and first of all, please raise your hand, 1 or 2 or whatever with legs. Who of you are founders here?
Ooh.
So, yeah, about half of the crowd at least, probably more, because some...
Okay, I need to now do a double check on Estonian Founders Society. Those who are members of Estonian Founders Society, raise your hands.
And
okay, far less.
Just founders, not yet members.
Okay, I see some sales happening later on in the evening.
So, and I will cover it later on a few slides, but I think we have had the best year ever in our history, even if it didn't feel maybe the easiest, but it was the best year ever, and most likely it will not be the last best ever. And yes, congratulations and thanks for hard work, and we will be covering it in greater detail throughout the presentation today. And also have a day job, which is being a part of the executive team of one of the defense tech companies. So it's Founders Society is not my day job. Thank you.
Yes, Allan is a young man full of energy, if you didn't recognize yet. And Allan wouldn't be Allan if he would come to an event without slides and without data. So I think we can actually go straight to the startup sector data slides. So we have prepped some slides. We are at least a little bit kind of blocking them, but you will get the general gist. And if you can ask the tech team, yes, put up some numbers. And Allan, you can actually walk us through what do you see in the numbers or behind the numbers?
So latest numbers as of yesterday. So first of all, there is a great phenomena. We are discovering new and new startups pretty much every day. So and last year it was about maybe 1,900 or 2,000 that we discussed. Now it's like 290 something. It doesn't mean that we have found it 900 over a year, but it's that we are discovering some. And many of them are actually founded by non-Estonians and e-residents and so on. But we also are discovering Estonian startups, which are just popping up on the radar screen, as they should. So usually it takes about, like, sometimes you know it the next day, because that's your friend who founded something. But very often we discover startups which are already like 2 years old. And then they end up in one big, like Franken Excel, where we are tracking all of them. And as of today, it's 2,930. Out of those, 1,700 have pulse. What does it mean? It means at least something, some sort of economic activity. Revenue, at least one employee registered, or some taxes paid. So something we can extract from the tax data. So 1,700, there are some more which are kind of doing nothing, but still like in the register, and there are hundreds of them which have been liquidated, especially last year, but we will cover it later. And it's about 5 billion, 5.1 actually in revenues that we expect this year, Estonian revenues. There are also startups with Estonian roots or like Estonian founded parent company, which have revenues outside of Estonia and not like popping up in Estonian business register. If we add that one, most likely we will be around 7 billion, so based on the estimates, but like 5 billion is Estonian revenue. But 7 billion could be like a tech revenue managed by Estonia, Estonians from Estonia, and so on. So, and it's almost 20% growth. Like in the first 3 quarters, it has been around 20%. It has been pretty volatile. So because tax department did something with the data, and now the numbers are a bit off. Like in Q1, it was like 31% or something, and then it dropped, and it became very volatile. But let's see, Q4 will be soon over. We will see what the number will be. But let's say around 20% is a good guess. And it's a fantastic number, isn't it? Like 20% on the backdrop of like the economy growing 1%. So it's great, and it's actually more than last year, which means that we are accelerating, which is also great. And like 19% having 5 billion is a hell of a big number. It's like less than a billion, but still like adding like 700-800 million in revenues in a year. I mean, we had a revenues of the full sector as such like a few years ago. So, and now what is even more interesting is value add. So we have made back of the envelope calculation or back of the Excel calculation, which shows around 1.8 billion in contribution to GDP this year from the tech sector, which is about 4.3% of total GDP. And this has more than doubled. It's like almost 2.5 times bigger than 5 years ago. And interesting thing is that it has all been done pretty much without changing the number of employees. So in the last 3.5 years, number of employees has been roughly the same, 17,000. So which means that on per employee basis, we have almost double the revenue and 2.5 times more value add. So we have created a sector which is actually significantly more efficient and can extract much more value from per one employee, and which is fantastic. So that's why we had the best year, and most likely there is absolutely no sign that it is slowing down next year. So maybe percentage-wise, I don't know, percentage-wise maybe it will be a bit less, but in absolute terms, most likely we can expect about another 1 billion to be added to the revenues next year. So that's my expectation. Thank you.
There are a few more slides. Do you want to cover any of them?
Yeah, so actually let's go do the next one. Yeah, exactly. Good. So it's pretty much the same that I just discussed, like in the last 5 years, and how the revenues and GDP contribution have grown, and it has been like 26% year on year in average in the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, let's say, 6 years, but like 5 incrementals, and 30% GDP contribution on year-on-year basis. So, cool numbers. Keep going.
If any of the kind journalists, because the journalists keep writing to me, and sometimes they also ask Allan's opinion and say that, is Estonian startup sector dying? Is Estonian startup sector kind of on a decline? Because those are the questions that we are usually getting in, that there's always some kind of inbuilt conflict. Then you can tell them that, no, sorry, no, not yet dying. So, more slides. Let's switch one more on, because we see that, all right, yeah, our favorite question. Let this one remain, because already today I heard about the startup birth rate or the founding rate of new startups. So, audience question. Is the rate of or new startups being born a problem in Estonia? So, is there enough startups born in Estonia? If you think that it's too little, one hand. If you think that it's criminally little, 2 hands. Okay, we see that I phrased the question badly, but you understood it. So you feel that it's a problem. I don't know if it's a problem. So any kind of, let's start with Allan again. Do you think that it's a problem that there is the kind of demographic inevitability, as you have put on the screen, on the slide?
Okay, let me explain the charts first. On the left, number of startups being registered in Estonian business register year on year. And you can see those little red or orange columns on top. So that's expectation. Like, I mean, we haven't discovered all of them. And it's just calculated based on how long it usually takes to appear on a radar screen. But there is a drop. Like we had 350 plus like in 21. And now it's maybe like barely 200. So many reasons: the economy, funding. I don't know, maybe Bolt not doing its bloody IPO, like, and everybody getting rich and creating a new startup. But there is also one thing which we often overlook, is demographics. And like you remember, we had huge drop in birth rates in early 90s. So about 2 times, like, I mean, from 20,000 plus people to 13,000 in a couple of years. And now those people are turning 30, which is the sweetest founder's age. And you can see on the right, there are two lines. Basically, the blue one, and it's on the axis on the left, is the number of people turning 30 in Estonia. And it has dropped from 25,000 to about, 13,000, 14,000 in 5 years. And the red one is basically number of startups founded by Estonians, excluding e-residents. And it's pretty much the same line. So which means that it's just inevitability. So we need to deal with that. And so we need to be able to grow our ecosystem with limited like domestic demography. So we need to find either like foreign founders, or we need to find old people like me founding again something, or we need to maybe live in an environment where we actually have AI to the rescue, and because there are not too many employees either. So which means that we need to be taking AI as our co-founders or AI as our co-worker and build our startup ecosystem without adding too many new people into it.
So let's turn to the investorish looking people now in the panel. So the startup birth rate, Karin, Gert and Henrik. Let's start with Karin. What's your take on this one? Do you see deal flow at the angels?
I think definitely there is less new startups that are being born and the less new startups also that we see. But I would say that the ones that we see are very good quality. So I think there is more investable startups. So I think the people who start founding a startup now really want to do it. They have the resources, they have the knowledge, they're actually ready to start raising funds also. And there's less of startups who are maybe done just for fun, because it is a proper commitment and building a startup is not easy. So people who actually do it really need to put the effort in there and really need to make the decision. And I think in this economic climate also, it takes a while to get to that decision, and you really need to have a problem that you're passionate about to actually take on that road.
So what is the most common question that you hear in Estban panels these days from the angels to the startups?
To the startups?
Yeah, what the investors are asking?
I think in that sense, the questions really haven't changed. It's still where does the money come from, and who are you selling to, and what are the next markets that you're going to?
Okay, so the quality of startup has risen, but the questions are still the same. Okay.
Because they need to be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, a little confused, but okay. Gert?
Yes, so I went through our famous exits and funding Excel, what you're all keeping up to date, and I saw that we had quite few, I would say 6 bigger rounds this year. So that's one of the issues I think we want to tackle the most with Invest Estonia, is connection with CVCs, corporate venture arms, let's say, who would help the startups to scale, make exits, and that I hope that exits and IPOs will make this new wave of founders. But I agree also with Karin, the startups we have seen are quite strong. We don't work with early stage that much, but let's say there is quite a lot, the pool, who would get to the B round, C round, and that's where we can help, hopefully.
Okay, Henrik, you are competing with Gert for this ripe scale-ups. What's your view?
Well, I mean, basically, from an investor's perspective, there can always be more deal flow. There is never too much deal flow. So, of course, the amount of startups could be higher. When looking at this graph, then one kind of important thing to remember is, well, both Karin and Gert were also mentioning it, that quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality. This reminds me of an interesting article that I read, that the average unicorn founder at the time of founding is 35. So when looking at the number of people turning 30, it kind of peaked in 2020, and now we're in 2025. So maybe we can expect some unicorns to be founded, trying to be optimistic. Of course, there is still the demographic inevitability that there are less Estonians, young Estonians, let's say, being these, trying to be the scrappy founders in a way, and really build something new. But I think collectively we have to kind of think, what can we do about it? What could be improved? How can we bring more foreign founders, make Estonia even more attractive for foreign founders? How can we incentivize, let's say, a little bit more older people, or kind of perhaps take some experts out of corporations and make them found new companies? How can we bring maybe more people out of universities and commercialize more of the scientific research that's happening in the Estonian universities? So there are various things that can be done. But as I said, I'm quite cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, we can come back to the source of optimism later. We need to get some of the burning questions out of the way, but just a nugget that actually Allan shared with me this morning, an article, and I made a mistake and I opened it. So it was, of course, 5 kilometers long, but thankfully in the first chapter there were a couple of interesting numbers, and one of them was number of daily established startups globally. Anybody want to guess how many startups are established daily globally? Any offers from the audience? 1,000. 2,000. 2 million. Less than 2 million. More than 2,000. 10,000, 20,000. It's like it starts to feel like an auction. But we can go higher than 20,000. So 200,000, less 137,000 startups. So and it was actually a good article. You can ask the link from Allan later on or from me. And it signified that the entrepreneurial activity globally is still peaking. That there has been never so high entrepreneurial activity globally. So this is the kind of context where we are in right now. But let's move another slide, because I think we are now getting to the funding part, which is always a fun part. So everybody in Estonia has seen this slide. Or maybe not everybody, at least not all the journalists. But audience question, availability of funding. Is there enough funding available? If you agree, 1 hand up. If you completely agree, 2 hands up. I love how none of the investors at the panel is raising hands. So it's a kind of a mixed issue. So funding, availability and the capital. So let's now go with Hendrik. So is there enough capital available? And what can we do about it if not?
Sure, yeah, this is something that we have been actually working on in SVCA for some time. So I would say that generally for the startup ecosystem, there is obviously less funding available than there was in 2021, 2022. There might be a question whether all of that funding back then was completely rational. But I would say that generally the funding environment should be pretty okay-ish. There are quite a few local VC funds, there are foreign investors investing into Estonian startups. I would say that the geopolitical environment maybe has not affected the startup scene too badly. The situation from SVCA's perspective is a little bit different for private equity, infrastructure, real estate funds, where the geopolitical situation is definitely influencing it more. However, one interesting thing to keep in mind here is that when you think about local funds, then the funds have also investors, and then the money is kind of coming from somewhere. All of the funds basically have some sort of a cornerstone investor, be it SmartCap or European Investment Fund or somebody else, but some sort of a cornerstone investor. And then this money, which sometimes is also coming from Europe, is often matched with some private investors. And historically, these private investors have actually, to a large extent, been Estonian pension funds. And the pension funds, they have invested very actively into the Estonian company, let's say Estonian economy at large. Currently, the number is around 722 million that's been invested into Estonia, but that number has been quite flat since 2021. Because in 2021, the pension reform happened, which meant that the money that used to be kind of long-term is now very short-term. The funds have to be ready that everybody can go and kind of withdraw the capital. The other thing that has happened, and it's maybe a little bit difficult to kind of criticize it, but it's just food for thought, is the question about index funds versus actively managed funds. Because the reality is that, of course, only actively managed funds can invest into the local economy. Index funds invest into the US index, basically. Maybe also some Asian index.
But let's do a quick test here. How many of the people in the audience, who has their assets in the index fund? Hands up. I'd say a vast majority. So who has them in the regular funds as well? Well, still a minority. Why is that a bad thing?
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It is not, absolutely. And I think that the option or like kind of the choice has to be personal. But what we're working on in SVCA currently is how to make investing into Estonian, especially illiquid investments, potentially easier for pension funds, so that we can use maybe a little bit more of the capital available, the kind of our collective societal capital, also for the benefit of the local economy. Because in a way, if we ourselves are not investing here and basically investing our funds on the US stock exchange, then how can we expect that anybody else will come and invest here? If we say that the return 100% is better there, then why would anybody invest in Estonia? Like, it cannot be the argument that the return is definitely worse. Maybe the fund managers have been doing a bad job. That's a problem. We can try to do a better job. There are many different angles, but just to be very, very clear, we are by no means proposing that pension funds should be investing all of their capital into Estonia or something like that. The idea is that maybe we can invest a little bit more. And there shouldn't be any kind of forcing, but maybe we can find ways how to make it easier and kind of incentivize the funds to invest more. Part of it is also raising the awareness of people that actually pension funds have played quite an important role in the local capital availability market, and this is changing. And now when thinking about the future outlook, then the funds that are currently investing on the Estonian market, most of them have pension funds as their investors. And these commitments were made before the reform. After the reform, I think there have been 2 new commitments from pension funds in like basically, 4+ years. So that's a very low number. And that will start to influence the market over the next 5 years. And hence, we're working on it.
So, Gert, you have to answer this question on a daily basis. Why should anybody invest in Estonia? And in the context of also what Henrik said, how do you view it?
I want to start a little bit broader. Sorry, I will answer your question, the last part. But funds fundraised in EU, 9 billion, so it's the lowest what we had in 10 years. So Shifted recently released that. So I think the problem is much broader than just Estonia. And I love the comment I read was, we don't have a VC problem, we have LP problem. So LPs are the ones who are basically giving the money to the innovation. So the biggest, I think, challenge here is how to get more fund of funds, LPs, to invest into funds, so we would have more capital available for startups. And one of the solutions, so there is EU project called Pension for Purpose, what's suggesting that there should be more collaboration between private LPs and having like private fund of funds where public money would be involved and kind of take more risks, let's say. On pensions topic, I want to also comment with data. So in EU, 0.1% from pension funds are invested into funds. So it's a very, very low percent. For comparison, US has 10%. So why we're thinking that US startups are doing better, there's more money available. So maybe that's one thing we should look at. And to answer your question, why investors should come here, so we looked at the Invest Estonia pipeline this year. So we had 40 to 50 new funds looking into Estonia. So I've been also taking startups to Paris for Vivatech pre-events for investors. And I see so much more interest from the countries where we usually never worked at, like Italy, Spain. So I do see that we have created this FOMO also for funds. We had several cases where funds were thinking of expanding here. We have a good case study with Norsken coming here, with smart capping part of it. So I think we do work on that daily to have more foreign funds come and compete with local funds. And also personally, I want to work more to have Estonian funds, let's say, more diverse and more global LPs part of it.
So, Karin, moving to you and a little bit making your life tougher because you have been in this landscape so long that I can't ask you easy questions. Looking from the startup point of view, that if nobody at home invests into you, then why should anybody from the outside invest into you? So this seems to be left in the hands of capable angels. So is that so, or like, continuing on the discussion that we are having, that is it fair, kind of, that angels should carry the load and to go to syndicates more and more?
I think when angels decide to become angels, they kind of take the responsibility to take that load. So in that sense that they are usually the first investors who need to support the startups to actually get to the next steps to get to international investors. But I think an interesting thing also what we've seen with angels, so 10 years ago, angels were quite often still investing on the idea phase, the team was trying to figure things out and so on. But nowadays, as I said, expectations of angels have increased, but also a lot of angels are investing into VC funds and then basically becoming LPs. So it's interesting to see how angels have also matured with the ecosystem, and it's going to be a bit difficult maybe in the future to differentiate like what are for angels and what are for VCs. And I think in the very early stage, this might become a problem that we don't really actually have that much funding. So I think this kind of easy money or like early money without proper validations, it's very, very hard to get. And and you really need to work hard to actually get it. But still, angels are the first ones to support the startups before they're ready for next rounds and ready for international investors.
So we can come back to this one later again if we have time. So how actually some of the money that is on the higher floors, on the pockets of big boys and big girls, they are talking about billions, and then angels are talking still about not billions. But moving to Allan, and let's switch the slide.
Not
because
Not yet.
Not yet? Not yet? You want to comment on this one also?
I would like to comment on
Okay,
a few
please
things.
do.
So, actually on two things first. Regarding index funds, before you asked us to raise hands who is investing pensions into index funds versus actively managed funds, so I never thought that I'm not doing my patriotic duty, and I also keep my pension in index fund now, which is not investing in as an LP. So, but that brought me to a topic that we have discussed also in some other events. What if we set up an index fund for Estonian startup ecosystem? So basically a fund which would blindly co-invest into every single VC round in the country, and like where everybody could be part. So which could be, I don't know, exchange traded or like whatever, but it could be part of the pension system. And looking at like 20 years history of investing, like all of those columns here, I think Estonian startup ecosystem as a portfolio, if somebody would have blindly invested, like, I don't know, 5 cents for every dollar which has been invested into this ecosystem, it would have had a pretty good return. And pretty diversified as well across like different stages and industries and so on. So why not to set up Estonian startup index fund? So second thing, when we were asked if there is enough capital for startups or not, when we asked the founders and also gathered some intelligence sometime in March, so we had information about 170 rounds being raised, in total about 800 to 900 million this year. And we are right now at 300 million, which means that it's like 500, 600 million gap. So same time, SVCA proudly says they have dry powder of 1 billion, which means that your 1 billion doesn't meet this 1 billion which has been raised. Of course, yes, your 1 billion is not the billion that many of the startups are raising, but nevertheless, there is some disconnect. And, lots of startups and good quality startups are actually raising, and you are looking for targets. And what I'm hearing from the VCs is that, oh, there are not enough companies, and same time I have this list of companies, and many of them are good. I think we just need to be better in like putting them in touch, because even in Estonian startup ecosystem, I find founders who don't know all of those 10 or 15 actively investing VC funds in Estonia. But let's put the next slide on.
So Allan asked about startups, so let's ask about how many investors in the room. So those startups who don't know Estonian investors, some are in the room. But this one, yes, because...
that's again, it's a little bit like putting apples and oranges into one basket and counting them together. But so we have been discussing that our funding has gone down, but now there is also this like orange column or reddish column, which is EBIT, profitability of Estonian startup ecosystem. Not exactly right, because it only has Estonian companies and like not like foreign-founded Estonian companies, but it shows the dynamics. And as you can see, if you add up fundraising and profits, which is a green column.
I can show that there's like a big drop behind Gert's hair.
Yeah, that was bold.
Big loss. We hide that on purpose from the live stream viewers.
Yeah, that was Bolt actually, yes, contributing most of that. But obviously, lots of capital was invested, it was burned. But what has been happening in the last 3 years is that actually we have got the whole sector into profits. So which means that now we have two sources, like systematically, like as an industry, we have two sources of capital. One is investor money, which has been dried up, but there is profits which are coming up. And if you look some together, like this picture is not too dramatic. So it has been dropping a little bit, but not too much. And most likely next year it will be even more dramatic. So which means we are entering into totally new area in Estonian startup ecosystem, where we have actually pretty sustainable and big profits that can be reinvested back to the industry, like directly into developing new business, or indirectly by just channeling them out as like dividends or capital gains, and back to like the pockets of founders, and then they become angels and fund LPs and so on, which is very, very dramatic and very interesting new development in the last few years. Thanks.
So any of the investorish people, any comments on this one? Any thoughts, remarks? From the founders, like, is Allan a good guy or Henrik a good guy or a bad guy? Don't answer yet. So we actually move now to the most provocative session or the block of this panel is that we've established that there's not enough startups being born and that there is still capital which is either sitting or not sitting safely or too safely at the accounts. So the question to the audience is, should startups die quicker? So those who think that startups should die quicker, one hand up. Those who think that they should die like much quicker, two hands up. All right, investors on this side, founders this side, it seems like there's some morbid Nordic people here and in this section and more optimistic people here. So I'm not sure if you had this. Yes, honorable death slide. Because this we get asked like that. Should startups die quicker? Should they move on to the better things? The common perception, and I'm addressing Henrik and perhaps even Karin here, is from the investor's point of view that, well, die quickly if you don't make it. And the investor portfolio is that you have let's say 100 investments. If 97 fail, that's fine. There's 97 bodies. Somebody will go to the morgue. It's fine. We'll have 3 winners. If you're one of those 97 founder bodies, that's a personal tragedy. So how would reply to this one, Henrik?
It depends on what you do after.
After death?
Yes,
Okay.
after death. Because in this world, in the startup founding world, the death is not the final option, right? You don't actually die. Your startup dies. It doesn't mean that you cannot go and found a new company. And I mean, it depends on, of course, how you wrapped up the previous startup. Like if you threw a massive party and left all bills unpaid, then probably you will have pretty difficult time fundraising for the next startup. But if you actually did like a honorable death, yes, a nice ceremony, then I mean, at least from our side, we would be happy to look at founders that have gone through that. They are definitely far more experienced. It's not a bad thing. I think this is not only in Estonia but also in Europe at large. The kind of the culture of failing is still it is only evolving. I think in the US there is definitely a lot more culture of failing, or failing is not necessarily a bad thing. And like basically, I think we have seen lots of these kind of semi-zombie startups that are almost dead, but they're still kind of a little bit carrying on. So in these cases, when you think of it from like a societal perspective, it would be actually much more beneficial to shut it down, kind of release the talent to the next more promising success stories and try again, basically. There's nothing wrong with trying again.
So moving to Gert and Karin, because men are notoriously known for having no empathy at all. So Allan showcased a slide which showed like 1,000 startups having no pulse. Henrik and me having similar kind of calls. So your take on dying honorably or not dying, or being persistent?
I'm totally pro fail quickly and learn fast. When I lived in US, I think the biggest culture shock for me was 15 years ago that how much they valued the founders who had, let's say, failing experience. The more you had, the more they valued you, because most likely you don't do the same mistakes, and most likely you learned a lot from them. And I really hope our culture gets more mature in that case, and especially for investors' perspective, we will look again the new ideas, because that's helps our sector a lot.
Mm-hmm. I also have to agree with the rest of the panel. I think we need to normalize this kind of honorable deaths, and it is a good thing because hopefully the same people will come back to the industry with more knowledge. But I think in that sense also like we need to put a more positive stamp in failing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if there's some bad stuff or some sketchy stuff behind it, then not. But if it really makes sense, then rather the founders have learned, they will bring so much more knowledge, experience to the market, and we should value them.
Yeah, that's all nice. Now, honestly, so in Estban panels, do you see those like resurrected founders coming back, or like with new ideas, new startups? How do the panels treat them, or is it like really so beautiful as you are telling, or?
I think it could definitely be more beautiful. So I have seen some founders that I saw pitching in Estonian in 2013, 2014. They did disappear for a while, but now are coming back. And I think also this kind of joint memory is a bit short. So quite often people actually don't remember that they have pitched or what they were building beforehand. It's more focused on what they're building now. And if that makes sense.
I need to ask a follow-up question. Do they remember what they were pitching previously or no? Like,
you mean the
even the same
investors
company,
won't
like-
remember,
Okay,
most probably.
okay, let's not go there. Allan, you are the most founderish person on this panel. So, do you want to die?
What a stupid question. So I have a controversial answer, like compared to what was said before. So, Estonian startup ecosystem is definitely one of the most successful ones in the world. Like on per capita basis, in absolute terms, and it is definitely a model of something. And secondly, Estonian startups die like reluctantly. For some reason, like they are dying, like, I mean, it's totally opposite to maybe American culture where you don't become a billionaire, like, okay, I'm giving up and I'm going to the next one. So we are doing stuff like stubbornly, like, I don't know, old Estonian farmers, like, we don't let go of our field and we just work on it. And maybe there is something in it. Like maybe there is something in our mindset and in our overall like way of doing things, which does both things, and like and maybe it's not dying quick death is good for something. So because I've seen also many companies which have been like literally like flatlining and then like going up, or maybe growing slowly and then starting to grow. And many of my friends who have been like stubbornly pushing forward and finally like selling the company and so on. I don't know if Estonian national character is meant to be like, okay, like I'm just letting everybody go and like telling my customers, I'm sorry, I'm closing my company, I'm moving to the next one. So maybe we'd like to stick to what we are doing and like stick to our promises. And maybe that's a good thing. But I don't have a ready-made answer, probably it's somewhere in between. But I mean, we are dying in droves. Like, I mean, it's like last year, okay, that's because the business register rules, but and we had the highest death rate ever. But I think more important chart is on the right. This basically shows how many companies stopped Pulse economically and how many of them started Pulse. So, and it's less dramatic, but nevertheless, there is something happening when it comes to death rates. But what is the normal corridor? I don't know. Somebody should figure it out.
Estonian characteristic, this stubbornness or jonnakus, and I think Estonians is the oldest or one of the oldest nations who still lives in the same spot where we came like 7,000 years ago. That we decided that, oh, this is a nice place, I'll stick around here. And you know, we've decided that this is good enough for us for 7,000 years.
And look out at the weather, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's not ask about from Peeter Koppel about the weather, but all right, this covers the honorable death. We've been talking about now the morbid topics. Let's talk something about more lighthearted. So the sources of optimism, that this is somehow how the journalists and any kind of survey runs, that tell us the sectors which are like dying or doing very bad, and the next sentence is, but tell where it's going really well, and where do you see the growth and where the turnover is coming from. So what are the sources of optimism and what gives you hope, you know, in the light of we are still in the Christmas month and, you know, midway through the advents? I don't know. Let's start with Gert this time. She's already smiling.
I'm the most optimistic person here. So I'm super optimistic in the perspective seeing how internationally we have been seen. So especially if the more I speak with foreign funds or fund of funds, they are really eager to see what's happening here, and maybe we can show them this video and see how the ecosystem is growing. But especially defense sector, deep tech sector, clean tech sector, so we see raising interest towards our startups and especially scale-ups on that region. So if you also see the fundraising rounds, so I think that also the more we talk about our wins, the more it creates this FOMO. So I will put on the hearts of founders, please, let's say, announce your rounds. It also creates more FOMO to Estonian founders. Yeah.
Karin, let's follow with you.
Yes, as I already said in the beginning, I think from the angel side, definitely the syndicate exits that we had this year, these are a source of big optimism because we've been doing these angel syndicates for a while, and it's really good to see that the companies that we chose 5 years or some more years ago actually are growing fast and doing great things so that they managed to get an exit. And also from the angel side, that these angel syndicates are not that common, so none of our neighboring countries are doing them that often or at all. So I think it's something that's Espan's strength, that we have built this system. We're doing these syndicates, we're giving new angels opportunities to start building their portfolios, and now those portfolios are also bringing some money back, and hopefully those will go into new syndicates. And I think the second thing of optimism, and maybe from my personal side, what I've seen more, is different kind of new programs for students and young people to start building startups. Igniter, Startup Garage, and so on. They do different hackathons, they do events, so kind of start giving this inspiration. And it's really good to see how the whole ecosystem is giving back to support these young founders. And maybe they'll found a company now, maybe they'll do it in a few years, but hopefully they will change the graph of the startup bursts also in the future.
All right, Allan, you're in deep thought.
Yeah, I'm an optimist, as I told in the beginning of the presentation, because we have the best ever year in tech ecosystem, and most likely the next one will be even better. But of course, there are islands which are doing even better, like defense was already mentioned. Defense probably grows like 50, 60, 70% year on year. And I still would like to see what's going to happen with our domestic AI industry, if there is such, not maybe yet, like it's not so clearly identifiable. But interestingly, the one thing I'm doing, I'm scanning Estonian business registry to see new registrations of companies which have either technologies, labs, or AI in their name. And of course, there was a boom of those in the last year, and we'll see how it materializes into real growth. But there are also problems, like maybe we can put the last slide on, like next one, please. Yeah, so it's, I titled it Murder on the Ground Floor. So basically, okay, there is no legend here, but that's a growth rate last year and this year. Last year blue, this year the red one, of companies over 100 million in revenues, 10 to 100 million, 1 to 10 million, and below 1 million. And as you can see, like the fastest growth is in those companies which have more than 10 million in revenues. Like they have been kind of in the same ballpark. But the biggest problem we have is with small companies. Like anybody who has not yet getting to the revenues, like between 0 and 1 million, has a problem. It's declining. And also, if you take a look on the liquidations data, so it's the same. Like pretty much everybody, all of those are having no revenues. So, which you can argue is kind of inevitable, and like startups die in an early stage, but it has been accelerating. And one of the reasons is that there is a lack of very early stage capital. So, and which has been like most of the capital has dried up, like in the bottom of the capital stack. So, and is it inevitable? Most likely not. And I think we need to think about how to move capital from the top floor to the ground floor. So, and for example, the same thing that I don't know, Bolts and like all of those big companies where we also have angel money locked up and the early stage funds. I mean, we need to get more exit. So that will release capital also to the ground floor and will help those guys in the last column to actually build their company and like persevere in the next 5 or 10 years and become next unicorns. So it's not only about like startup burst problem, but it's also like the death, like it's a child death, like a newborn death problem actually that we have in the ecosystem, and we need to deal with that. So we need to feed those babies a bit better.
Yeah. So in the true Christmas spirit, we had founders in the room. So how many founders are here in this like kind of above 100 million revenue part? There's like one, and that wasn't Sten who was raising hand. So 10 to 100 million. Okay. So, and now the last column, the below like 1 million revenue. Okay, so you got the diagnosis right now. All right. Henrik, now the sources of optimism. All hopes are on you.
Yeah, well, having this prep call, we all agreed that we have to be optimistic because I think generally we have been quite pessimistic as a society for, I mean, if you open Delfi or Postimees over the past 2 years, then it's like completely negative. Everything is negative always. I think it's actually not that negative. I think
Anybody from the media here, raise your hand.
Yeah.
You heard, right? Optimistic.
I think we live in a very nice place apart from our neighbor, and we have a thriving startup scene. But when looking at the funding graph, which dropped, of course there is the question that if the companies become profitable, then they don't need to raise funding anymore. But there is still the question of that the next companies that are yet to become profitable, where will be the next big kind of outcomes that because realistically, of course, without the next Bolt or Veriff, we will never get back to the 1 billion plus raised per year. These will be driven by large outliers. What's the chance that there will be next large outliers? Looking at the same Excel table that everybody is referring to, I mean, this year there were 3 rounds of 45 million plus, 8 rounds of 10 million plus. It's like citing Chernobyl, it's not great, not terrible. But I think 3 rounds of 45 million plus is actually pretty okay. And all of these companies definitely have potential to raise quite, well, the next, let's say, giga round in next 1 to 3 years. So I think, yeah, we can be cautiously optimistic. It's
Yeah, you know, I will kind of wrap up this one. And me and Anneliisa and Olga, actually, we came from the Igniter event. There was 23 teams were pitching, student teams, pupil teams. The youngest one to pitch was a 13-year-old young lady. So there is still hope in the youth. So it's not all is doom and gloom. So I do agree that, and also the kind of lovable event with the Pactum and Pipe Drive in combination with the ecosystem was a pretty good sign of optimism. And I will open here the floor for questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, you can raise up, and I don't know if you have anybody running around with a mic. Yes, we have. Merit is running around with a mic. So if you do have a question, just raise your hand. There is one from the, not exactly back row, but in the middle row.
Hello, Matthias from Cratworks. I have 2 positive comments and then 1 question. One of those positive comments is that I think we now have a new Estonian slogan, positively failing. And then I kind of got the vibe that startups should like fail quickly and not be so emotionally attached. And then me as a founder, I would definitely like to recommend this also to the investors. Like, just don't hold on to the money. And then the question is that it seems that we anyway have like 50% higher survival rate, like 10 out of 100 surviving versus 15 roughly, right? Which is kind of like 50% higher, right? I'm looking at Allan. I think you know the numbers. So, well, anyway, we have like a few percentage points higher, but from a very, very low number.
I think it's significantly higher survival rates than it was in that article that you are probably quoting. But yeah, we have significantly higher survival rate in Estonia.
But regardless of this, let's say 50% higher, if I like now try to think that what would be the ideal for the startup ecosystem, ideally there would be maybe not like 90% of startups failing, but maybe only 10, and all the rest would get funded. And then the question is, if we now reverse this in our heads and we try to figure out like what should happen in Estonia that with our declining population and yada yada, that how would we get more successful startups out of those small numbers? Thanks.
Anybody want to have a quick answer on this one, or the magic golden egg?
I can comment. I was thinking about that a little bit today as well. So we have UniVentures, right? But I think we need more collaboration with universities, more funding to the universities, more, let's say, one of my favorite examples is from Sweden, where they did MBA program together with lawyers for IP and also hardware engineers. So if you put these people in the same room, lots of magic can happen. So let's think more out of box in the universities as well. That would be my suggestion, and more funding to the universities.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think it's not too hard. Like, we have like, let's say if we have 200 startups a year, we'd like to grow it by 100. So it's about 200 more people becoming founders, like assuming 2 founders per company. And like even with our declining population, it's not too difficult. How to do it? I don't know, just encourage people. But one of the things which kind of enlightened me was also on this Lovable event. I mean, you can actually launch a startup pretty much in 4 hours and like to do something useful. So, and I'm discovering very interesting startups all the time. Like, for example, my best discovery last month was there is a company registered in Estonia, which is a platform for European handball coaches. And they have like more than $1 million in revenues. And like it's never heard about it before. And like like you can figure out those little like mini micro markets and launch a startup into it by using, I don't know, Lovable or like AI nowadays much more easier. And I think we need to promote it. So I've been talking about that with Vaido as well. And like maybe next year we can launch something, some initiatives, training courses and so on. What if we teach like, I don't know, a few thousand people to use Lovable? And maybe if like 100 of them launches some kind of startup, we're already there.
Or teach some
So,
others.
any other questions from the room? Now we have a lot. So, Kaupo, Rannar, and then the guy in the first row whose name I have forgotten. I know, but I have forgotten.
Hi, Rannar from Estonia. A lot of
E-briefing center training kicks in.
startup day, you choose whatever hat you want. But to Alan's point and to Vaido's as well, I mean, half of this room a few weeks ago was at the Pipedrive offices for the Lovable event. And the question is about the general effect of vibe coding on the Angel network and on the kind of European level as well. Are you seeing more interest or more interesting products come up, or are these more like flashes in the pan, which just like there's a moment and then they go away, that it's someone's passion project?
Anybody
Again,
want?
I think just from the macro point of view, since I have my hobby of trying to put together the most comprehensive list of Estonian startups, definitely this year, especially in the last half year, there have been more and more companies which fall into this category of like lightweight, vibe-coded or almost vibe-coded startups which are getting registered, and we need to see if they will become also businesses, not just websites. But it's a promising beginning.
I think from our side, we haven't seen that many of them yet because it hasn't really been a thing for that long. So as we said, like, the expectation from angels is that they should have some kind of proof from the market or maybe customers. So I think we need to, let's ask that question in like half a year or in a year.
We'll remember that. We'll ask. Now, have you invested? So the mic is now in the hands of Kaupo. No, yet now it is.
Kaupo Voormansik, Kapazeta. I like the idea, Alan, what you said, the Estonian Startup Pension Index Fund. And this year over year, 20% growth looks like pretty good. Can you maybe a little bit elaborate on it? Like, what is the 5-year average growth rate or 10-year average? Because it seems like such a good thing to help ourselves. And if there is a transparency there, then why not to just go ahead and do it?
I know a guy who goes into Prime Minister's office.
Yeah, so Kaupo, your question was about like what is a 10-year performance? Yes. It's I don't have the number right now, but not too bad. So I mean, the growth rate has been very good. Like in absolute terms, I mean, growth rates we used to have like 10 years ago, what, 50, 60% a year on year. But like that, in absolute terms, obviously the base was much smaller. So, but I still maintain that if somebody would have invested a little bit of money with every VC round, automatically, no questions asked. Like, of course, some pre-qualification needs to be done, but it would have been a very good portfolio.
Let's do a quick check. Anybody or who of the people in the room have been in the tech ecosystem longer than 10 years? Hands up. Okay, most of us. So we are kind of a cognac club already. Very sad. but we can probably be witnesses that the evolution of the Estonian startup or tech ecosystem that we have seen, it's still on the positive side, or then we can argue about it. But now, Ucha, right? I remembered your name. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I have more basic question than this actually. So you mentioned like a lot of numbers, like this number of startups, this number of startups, that. So when you do this kind of like statistical analysis, how do you define startup and how do you differentiate to like the normal businesses?
A good question. Actually, I owe no definition for to Vaido's colleague, but basically it must be technology based, either technology enabled or creating technology, and it must have global ambition, like or at least beyond Estonia, like an European continent or whatever. So that's broadly speaking two main ones.
I was thinking about it when the vibe coding came up, that whether we consider vibe coding kind of startups, proper startups, or we say that these are, like, so, but I don't have an answer yet either. Startup historically has been a tech company, scalable tech company, on its the most broadest term. You could argue that anybody is a kind of tech company these days. So we'll see where the definition evolves. But usually people who try to define everything and put them into categories and boxes come from the public sector, so me. Then they try to make some decisions based on who is health tech, who is space tech, who is defense tech, who is doing something else, and it's becoming increasingly difficult because, many companies have many different revenue streams, many different areas. And how do we define them, and do they promote or contribute to the national priority areas and so on and so forth. But that's a too long discussion. Let's not go there. So we can take one or two questions from the room, and then we'll have a wrap-up round. There is one in the back, and do I see another hand? One in the middle. Did Sven raise hand as well? No? No? That's interesting. Why?
I have a bit startup ecosystem political question. If I invest to Nasdaq companies in USA, then by using investment account, I can postpone my taxes. I'm really investing only my own money. Yeah. But if I invest to some startup, I have invested to 12 startups, I have to declare all the incomes at once. So can we change it on the political level that the investment account could also apply to startups registered in Estonia?
I think in Estonia we have one wonderful startup or investment account called OÜ.
Yeah, but you see, you are all a person, but I don't think I should pay to an accountant if I can do some maybe 2-3 startup investments per year and invest only my own money. And I think we have many such potential investors.
Do you want to
Estonia has 130,000 OÜs, which is one per every 10 people. So, which is the highest, one of the highest levels, and for the reason because it's tax heaven essentially. To manage your own wealth. So, and yeah, you need to probably, let's say, having been managing Estonia's biggest accounting platform called Xolo for 4 years. So I know that about 2/3 of Estonian OÜs don't have an accountant, but they do it themselves or they use do-it-yourself platform. So it's not, I don't think it's a problem. And if it is a problem, in that case, somebody could just develop even cheaper and more automated accounting service. And
There is already.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem, to be honest.
I do understand that question, though, being worked with angels for pan-Europeanly for the last 2 years. So there is many countries too who do offer a tax break for investing into doing angel investments. And I think the most active investments are in UK and Germany, and these countries are using this policy. But it's EU-level question. Karin and Espen can work on in the future in the policy level, but I think it could help to bring on more angel investors and kind of help.
Maybe.
All right, yeah. I'm starting to hear background noise, which means that we should start wrapping up. And we are already 5 minutes over time. So, okay, not taking any more questions from the floor, exercising my right as a moderator. One wish for 2026 from each of you. Henrik looked at me like I had 12. So while you are picking your favorite baby, we start with Allan. One wish for 2026 for Estonian startup ecosystem.
I think it doesn't relate to Estonian startup ecosystem directly, but it will affect all of us. Fair peace or victory in Ukraine. So it will affect everything.
Okay, you can't copy Allan's fish, so you have to think your own.
I think from my side, I hope that there's more optimism and positivity in that sense that how we also talk about the startup sector, because I think that will bring new people in here, that it's not only doom and gloom, but there's fun people, there's great things happening, and you can do amazing things here.
Gert.
I wish to see more international collaboration. I was very happy to see Walk Bike news with collaboration with Renault. So I really do want to see us instead of only not selling outside, but also partnering with other companies.
Henrik.
Yeah, I have to a little bit steal Karin's idea about more optimism and positivity, but also connecting it to more activism and let's just roll up the sleeves and get going and try to do things. It will not work out, but it will get closer to something that's hopefully more positive.
Yes, and the good thing on this one is we didn't talk too much about pension funds a bit, but I have never seen in Estonian mainstream media more discussion about capital markets in Estonia than it's happening currently. So even the media is evolving in Estonia. With that, I think we still have, we have one announcement. There is the Estonian Startup Awards 2025 coming up, so you can scan the QR code. Hopefully, we are not in the way. Nominate a startup. There are different categories. That's up to you.
And wait.
Yes.
And also from Estland side, I want to make one announcement. So.
Wait. This was I wanted to play this, funeral march. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to announce to the community that my term at Estban is coming to an end, and I'm super excited to welcome Jana Saastamoinen as the new managing director of Estban. And yes, big round of applause for her. So she will fully start next year. But all the angel questions will start going to her now.
Yeah, so all the questions and all the data that Karin so kindly promised to gather and answer for, this will be Jana's responsibility and tasks. This is how we do it in Estonia.
I have a similar announcement, so
yes.
It's my last week at Invest Estonia. I joined the European Women in VC, so helping to connect LPs and fund of funds to Estonian funds as well, and working pan-Europeanly. And from our side, Mirja Meerma in the future is the contact if you want to work with Invest Estonia.
Estonia still has, I think, one of the highest rates in women founder and so on. It's still not a very great number, but in VC, who is actually
less
VC?
Less than 10, I would say. We talk about GP level mainly.
Yeah.
So we discussed that with Kadi from Iron Wolf, she has partner level, but not GP. So it's
All right, and there is still one more thank you that we should give, and this is not because she's departing or leaving, but this is to Merit, because she helped to organize this event here. So let's give a big round of applause to Merit. Merit, yes, Merit is there. All right, we have officially reached to last year's number, 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we'll take a wrap here. Thank you for being so patient and so quiet. Next year, hopefully you will sit down quicker, but that's my wish for the next year. Thanks. How long are the doors open, Merit? 9-ish, not in the morning, in the evening. So, grab some founders, grab some investors, grab some data from Allan, and let's mingle. Thank you, guys.
Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.